All right, we are officially countdown mode. So I'm going to ask all my presenters to mute when they're not speaking. Me and Steve are going to talk a little junk as we count down to the start of the show. I want to welcome everybody on LinkedIn. And if you're jumping in on YouTube or Facebook or Periscope and Twitter, we really appreciate you. The fun on this program is definitely in the comments. So we're looking forward to hearing where you're calling in from, where you're listening from, where you're viewing from. We want you to like, we want you to share, we want you to shout out your city and state. We want your questions. We want your comments. The more questions that you ask, the more questions that are very specific to you and your business. We know that if you're getting something that's of extreme value to yourself, it's going to be of extreme value to somebody else. So don't be afraid of getting very personal and asking a great question that is going to be very helpful to you. We want to help you out with this. We're going to talk about social media tools. This is the Master Connection series, and it is all about connecting with other people. My mission in life is opportunity and education. I'm trying to help 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old me that was lost, didn't graduate from high school, had a kid at 19, was lost, people telling me go to college, and I was like, all right. And I wasn't looking at the educational resources or the financial resources. I was looking at the girl in the red leather pants and really dug the assets of that school. And so that's how I made my life decision. And it didn't turn out well. 2 years later, I had a lot of bills and not a degree to show for it. I went into hospitality, which has been really great for me. But I know the doors and opportunities that would have been open to me had I sought out mentorship, listened to the right people, really had somebody pushing me. And so this show and everything that I do is all about providing that opportunity and education. We have a great group of people that Mr. Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, has put together for us today. And I'm really excited to get into it. Steve, would you please let the folks know that we want to hear from them and keep it going. And I'm going to start getting into the background here and getting tapped.
Absolutely. So thank you, Cameron. So as usual, I'll say it now, I'll say it again later. I mean, you are the man. He is the magic behind this show, the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain for sure. And I appreciate all that he does, the magic he does. When we're talking about tools, the best tool that I have, I hate saying it like this, but it's Cameron Toth is the best tool I have. He's an amazing asset.
I think Steve just called me a tool, everybody. That's crazy.
I'm not very PC sometimes too, by the way. So anyway, risky for live broadcast, that's for sure. So, but anyway, so glad to have everyone on the show. Looks like Pasquale Palumbo is joining the house. Yeah, Christine. So Christine and I and Pasquale did a it was back in the day of, I guess we were live and in person with people, right? We did
remember that?
Yes. What was that like? That was awesome. So welcome, Pasquale. If you're tuning in pre-broadcast here, welcome to the show. Please shout out where you're from. If you have any questions, we're loving questions here. We've got an incredible panelists that are going to, they're really subject matter experts. I am just, I say this all the time. When I'm the stupid guy or dumb guy in the room, I'm in the right room. So I'm definitely in the right room guy. I'm the dumb guy here for sure. So, hey, Luann, great to have you on here. So it's going to be a blast. We're going to have a great time. And so if you're seeing this, please go ahead and share this with your network. Take the link. I know there's a way to do it. I can't articulate it, but you can take the link and post it out, blast it out on text message, blast it out on your feeds and all that. And it's going to be great. We've had some incredible viewership. It's also a great opportunity if you're on as viewers to network with each other. You can connect with each other right there in the chat section there. So we love that. And again, this is all about the Master Connection series. So it's about connecting. So definitely make sure you take full advantage of that as well. But we have an incredible panelist here with us, and I'm excited to hear from Mike and from Damon. And of course, from Christine, and of course, my man Nick LaMagna. Right, so he is. Everyone has. What's great about this group here is everyone's got a very unique and cool perspective, right? And I would love that. One of the things what we find about the show is you know, we don't disagree, but people come at it from different angles. And that's the best part about this, right? Because there's no right or wrong in this kind of stuff. It really isn't. It's just perspective. So, you know, we have some people that have lots of cool different perspectives here, and can't wait to see the banter going back and forth. And what's fun is when we get on the show like this, it's fun because we try to end by 3, but usually we go a little over because there's so much good energy within the on the stage with the panelists that we just don't want to leave. It's like this great feeling. So there's like a camaraderie that gets built. So you'll feel that in the show, I'm sure. But it's a blast, and just excited to do it. So hey, welcome Joseph Patasso from New York. Welcome, Joe. And yeah, so just, you know, definitely if you're watching, please do the clapping hands, do the thumbs up, the heart. You know, we're gonna get some cool music going on. Look at that. Christine is in the house. Christine, I'm hoping I'm saying Pucci. That's Puce. In Italian, the C is pronounced the sh sound, right? Mike knows that. And Nick, you know that too, right? So anyway, look at that. Anyone else joining us? I'm sure there's a bunch of people joining us. So please make sure to shout it out. It's great. It's been incredible. So great. How cool did Cameron do with that? Huh? Larger than life. Look at you, Nick. Larger than life, right? I don't know who that guy is. The guy on the left. Yeah, that's fun. Cool stuff. Cameron, you still trying to do your thing? I'm tap dancing, sir.
Steve, I noticed that on one of the promos you were doing kind of a ninja kick thing. Are we going to get a little ninja action today?
We might. We'll see.
Blackbelts here.
Nice.
You know, if any of you guys are out of order, I'm going to come kick some butt. That's for sure. But yeah, it's going to be great. So awesome stuff. Yeah, I know. You know, one of the things that I love about Cameron, he runs a tight ship here. So obviously, we're going to try to keep things, you know, pretty streamlined. So try to keep as your answers don't get too deep into the weeds, and obviously let's stay on topic and keep things fun for sure.
All right, and I just want to ask or tell Kristen Cuse that it is recorded for anybody that does want to watch it. We definitely love you participating live, but we understand everybody's got busy schedules and things to do. So we appreciate you watching now and later. It's really amazing. Last week's show, we had 360 comments. So Pasquale Palumbo said he is single-handedly going to top that number for us.
I believe it. Go Squall.
Strike first, strike hard, no mercy, Pasquale Palumbo says. So we appreciate you, Mr. Cobra Kai, in the house. We do have a couple black belts, so I'll let Steve talk to that. I do also want to say for folks, please let us know where you're viewing from. Really excited to be interacting with you. We're really excited for everybody that's on the show. The fun is in the comments. The show is you. We really do appreciate our community. We love all our regular folks here. We are about a minute 30 from getting officially started, and we'll kick off some questions. But really, the great fun of this is answering your questions. So we're looking forward to doing that. I do want to make sure that everybody is represented. So please do share this, hit those great fun, the thumbs up button, the green clappy symbol, the support, the heart, the light bulb, the insight, the curious. We want all of those things going on. LinkedIn really likes all that good stuff. So keep doing that. Share this out to your live network so that we can bring people in here, let people know there's a show going on. We bring a ton of value. So we just want to make sure that we have a lot of fun in the comments. So with you sharing and liking and smashing all those buttons, it helps us share this out and provide more value and bring more people to the table. We hope that you're networking in the comments and connecting with people. Lisa Weisner is here, just came on here to say hi. And I am actually interviewing her on BizDev Live this Monday. So everybody tune into that. New York, glad to be here. Andy Phillips in the house.
I'm at Andy Phillips.
All right, we're getting
my sister-in-law Augustina Holst from Fort Myers is in the house. Pretty cool. Hey, one thing, you know, Sean Lashley is going to give a digital card. Whoever brings the most visitors to our show. So make sure you let us know who came because of you or who was there on the show because of you.
Minuteman Press in Mamaroneck, shouting out from Mamaroneck, New York. We appreciate you. Mr. Austin Stewart, all the way from Quito, Ecuador. All right, guys, it is officially time. We're going to get this party started. You know how we do it.
Fire up your Friday.
Fired Up Friday.
With Steve Spiro, the Master Connector.
I am Steve Spiro, the Master Connector.
Over the next hour of this Master Connection series, we will take a deep dive into the different ways to connect and network effectively.
See us and hear us right now. So LinkedIn, we are on here. We're getting ready.
Hear from experts along with Steve Spiro, who went from being shy and introverted to the Master Connector.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a Master Connections series. All right, that's it. That's what we're doing here. Make sure you're liking, you're sharing, you're shouting out your city and state. We want to know where you're viewing from. We want your questions. We want your comments. So I'm going to go around. I'm going to introduce everybody. I'm going to introduce your host, Steve Spiro. I'm going to introduce our panelists. I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. If you have questions, if you have advice, we're not the only experts on LinkedIn. We're just the ones on this show today to provide you value. If you have tools and tricks, we got so many great tools and tricks and advice from the audience last week, and we want your tips and tricks this week. Please keep sending those in. We really appreciate. This is the Master Connection series, and it is presented by your host, the Master Connector, Mr. Steve Spiro. He is a martial arts black belt and a master networker. He has moved from being a shy, introverted kid to the Master Connector he is today. Steve Spiro is a certified customer communications consultant with Quadient, where he consults and mentors companies to help them find more effective ways to work with their customers. Steve Spiro believes in the power of mentorship, growing oneself through self-development and continuing to create meaningful connections through building a large network. Welcome to the stage, the Master Connector himself, Steve Spiro.
Thank you, sir.
All right,
Excellent.
so I'm going to go around the room here. We're going to go in alphabetical order here. Miss Christine Gritmon. Mrs. Christine Gritmon empowers small business owners and solopreneurs to tell their own stories on social media. I'm just going to mute everybody real quick and just go through that. All right. Christine Gritmon empowers small business owners and solopreneurs to tell their own stories on social media. You can do it. Christine will teach you how. Christine Gritmon has spoken on stages worldwide and is a frequent expert guest on podcasts, live streams, Twitter chats, and blog posts. Christine Gritmon hosts a weekly Twitter chat called Chat About Brand. And Christine hosts a live interview show entitled Let's Talk About Brand. Christine Gritmon simplifies the process of putting yourself and your brand out there on social media. Please welcome to the stage the brand queen, Mrs. Christine Gritmon. You want to say a couple words?
Thanks for the incredible intro. Love it.
That's what I'm here for. And now we're going to go over to Mr. Damon Burton. Over a decade ago, Damon Burton beat a billion-dollar company by outranking their website on Google. Since then, he knew he was on to something and has gone on to build an international search engine marketing company that's worked with NBA teams and Inc. 5000 and Shark Tank featured businesses. In the decade plus of running a global team, surprisingly, he's never met any of his team in person. Burton can speak on how to manage a remote team as well as how he approaches dedicating time to family and balancing it all. Having started his business right before the 2008 recession, Damon is familiar navigating and growing a business through times like today. Never before has there been so many people needing something to focus their attention on and the time to do it. Since founding his company, SEO National, in 2007, he writes for Forbes, has been featured in publications including Entrepreneur Magazine, BuzzFeed, and USA Weekly, and has helped high-profile clients make more in a month than they used to in a year. Plus, he has a beard. Please welcome to the stage the outrank author, Mr. Damon Burton.
That's it. How do you follow that? Show's over. Thanks, everybody.
All right, we're going to go over to our man, Mike Maccarelli. I'm hoping, am I saying that right, Mike?
Macchiarelli.
Maccarelli. All right. Mike Maccarelli is a sales trainer and business development consultant at KO Advantage Group, the fastest growing sales training company in North America for high value B2B services. Mike has over 10 years experience in the world of professional selling and has shared his insight on multiple podcasts. During his 6+ years at Equinox, a luxury lifestyle fitness brand, he won numerous awards, led multiple high performing teams, and helped to train over 1,200 employees. Please welcome to the stage, the trainer of truth, the seller of sales, Mr. Mike Maccarelli.
Hey, happy to be here.
Thank you, man. All right, so we're going to go to our other black belt on the stage, right? Mr. Nick Lamagna, pronounced like lasagna, right? Real estate investor since 2006, invested virtually since 2000, raised millions in private funds, flipped and wholesale multi-unit portfolios and mobile home parks, almost a hotel too. His experience in almost all aspects of residential investing, bought and sold portfolios, currently doing a land development deal, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, host of the A-Game podcast with Nick Lamagna. Please welcome to the stage the promoter of property, the real estate statesman, Mr. Nick Lamagna.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. That is our crew today. We have assembled an expert panel. I know we got a lot of great comments. I got Christine in here. I got David Pascaru from Westwood, New Jersey. I got Maggie Carey checking in, social media queen herself. Alan Grieswald and Ardsley, Chris Januski in Yonkers, Alan Greenwald checking in, Austin from Quito, Ecuador. So good. I got to say it twice, right? So nice. I have to say it twice. Amy Kanarek still awake. Yes. All right. We were on the 5 a.m. call this morning and both did not sleep. So that's the backstory there, folks. And then Mr. Pasquale Palumbo. I met Christine through a networking event and now she's really like my little sister. Mary Doherty says, hi, Steve. And Pasquale Palumbo is already done. All right. Thanks very much, everybody. That was a great show. All right. We're going to get into it. We got some questions here. We're going to get this going with the panel. I'm going to throw Christine on first because she's already on the back channel and knows what she's doing and wants up at the mic first. So we're going to say, what are your goals for using social media, Christine? And then if you can follow that with what tools that you use to actually accomplish those goals. So I'm going to give you the full screen experience here. All right.
My goal is always to connect ultimately. And that's been a bit of a journey because at first it was about kind of getting my face out there and getting known. And that certainly matters. But over time, I have realized that connections and really developing a sense of community matters a lot more than just, becoming internet famous or whatever. So it is definitely a good, social media is an incredible tool for connecting, and I help people figure out how to do that for their businesses and their brands. So of course I need to do it myself. And so that's what it's about for me, for connecting and giving people a real sense of who I am and what I'm about, because I am my brand. I am my product. Ultimately, people hire me as a consultant. They hire me for me. So I need to make sure that I'm showing up and able to give people a taste of who I am and what I'm about. And the best tool that I've had for doing that has been live video. I've been doing live video for many years. In fact, before I was in business and social media, I was a journalist and I got early access to Facebook Live, which I used very poorly at the beginning, but who didn't? But I've been going live weekly for years now. And my tools have evolved, but right now my favorite tool set for that is I go live with Ecamm and Restream. Those two pair together really nicely. Ecamm lets me do all my fancy bells and whistles and overlays and whatnot. And then Restream allows me to then simulcast on many different channels, because I used to be just on Facebook Live, but I have a way more active Twitter community. So now I can go live simultaneously on Facebook, on Twitter, on Periscope. I could add some more channels to that if I'd like. But Ecamm plus Restream has really been the winning combo for me. And it's the most important set of tools that I use right now.
Love that. All right. And we use, just so everybody knows, we use StreamYard on here.
StreamYard is so great. I love the people at StreamYard too.
Yeah, so we have a lot of fun with this. I got some bells and whistles that we do, and the overlays through Canva. So I know Canva will probably be brought up a couple of different times. I wanted to give Steve an opportunity just to jump in here and reset the room, because I know just in terms of what we're doing today, automatically, I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh my goodness, social media overwhelming. And I think Steve is a great baseline, because he tries to keep it really simple and has had a lot of success in building out his network. So I'm going to let him talk to that a little bit as the host of our show, Mr. Steve Spiro, the Master Connector.
Well, I appreciate that, Cameron. Well, hey, folks. Well, hey, Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, right? Cameron and I each really appreciate you tuning in. Welcome to our show each week, Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We come at you with engaging content on how you can also be a master connector. As a shy, introverted kid, from the Bronx, to someone who's grown a massive network and can talk to just about anyone. There's really been definitely lots of great lessons along the way, like most of us have, been a winding road from starting out, having my own advertising company out of college, to a martial arts studio, to technology sales, and now consulting and mentoring. Self-development has been very crucial for me. I've learned to adapt and keep growing. And I love sharing what I've learned. And so please make sure to check out my Fired Up Friday Master Connector tips that I post every Friday. I got one done this morning again. And next to my friend Sean Lashley of 10,000 Cards, I have a digital card that catalogs all 60 plus weeks in one place. Check them out. Please DM me and I'll send you the digital card. But during the Master Connection series here, each week our goal is to gather subject matter experts like you see here, to impart their wisdom on all of us, including Cameron and I, right? And we're always learning. You got to always keep growing, right? I always heard it said, you're either a tomato that's ripening or a tomato that's rotting, and we always want to be growing. So, but I'm very blessed, honestly, to have my co-host, Cameron Toth, founder of Toth Event Staffing, and now the host of Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then Biz Dev Live networking on Tuesdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. Don't miss it. It is definitely an amazing, very different networking experience. Don't miss it. So, but anyway, Cameron, as usual, you are the man. Appreciate all that you do. Panelists, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Can't wait to hear all the wisdom that's going to be spouted out from everybody. Enjoy the show, people, and make sure to shout out and share this as you're watching here, and make sure to network with each other. Appreciate you, Cameron.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to go to Damon here. I just want to remind everybody, like, share, shout out your city and state, questions, comments. We want them all. More specific, your question. We're going to talk about the tools that we're using and things that are working for us, but we want your questions, because we know if you have a question about something that you're using for your business, we can steer you in the right direction, give you some great advice, maybe save you the trouble of going over a pothole that you didn't even know was going to be down the road for you. So we definitely want you to participate that way. Definitely put your questions. We want to know where you're tuning in from. We want your comments. We want your advice, all that good stuff. All right, Mr. Damon Burton, you are up.
Thank you so much. Hey, I just want to say thanks to Steve for the invite. And I think that kind of underscores the power of connecting, because him and I have had a whirlwind social media love affair. We've only known each other for what's it, just a couple days, right, Steve?
Pretty much, like a week or something. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and then here we are teaming up. So yeah, I mean, as far as the topic at hand of social media, I'll give a little bit of backstory. I actually deleted all of my social media November 2019, no, 18. So just over 2 years ago, just for, the usual reasons a lot of us are familiar with. You just kind of get burned out on some of the drama and things like that. And so then I actually, when I deleted it, it was gone for about 30 days, and I deleted it. So you know how if you delete Facebook, it's really there. My wife, bless her, she went through and manually unfriended, deleted every comment, every post, everything since whenever I got on social media. And then the 30 days that followed, I thought, well, why can't I do social media my way? Why can't I find the right balance of the things I like, which is helping other people, talking about business, but also talking about my appreciation for my wife, my kids, and family life, but then also find that privacy line, draw that line in the sand where maybe I don't want to go too deep in my private life, but also showcase and be vulnerable and talk about things that I do want to talk about. So the reason why I give you that backstory is after I said, okay, let's figure out what that dance is and do social media my way. A couple months later, it was quantifiably profitable. So I think that when a lot of people look at, let's compare social proof and social media from paid ads to, social proof social media to paid ads, paid social, paid Facebook. With paid ads, it's like $1 in, $1 out, or $1 in, $2 out is the goal, right? But with social proof, it's like $1 in, nothing out, $1 in, nothing out, several $1,000s out later. So it can be quantifiable. Long story short, within 9 months of just giving value, showcasing your area of expertise, and on my social proof, I do not drive people to a call to action. I do not send them to a landing page. I do not send them to an opt-in. I just stay top of mind. And I think within the first 9 months of doing that, added 150 grand in contracts above and beyond what we're already doing just from primarily LinkedIn posts. And so I've honestly stopped quantifying it after that, but it's been very enjoyable it's been very effective from a business standpoint, but then I also get the personal enjoyment of being able to help people and add to the bottom line of the business. So I think there's a lot of opportunity where people get a little bit confused of, do I have to do social media this way or that way? You can do it whatever way you want.
I love that. And one of the things that I want people to take here, Steve's going to jump in here, and the rest of my panelists, I want you to remember, get in that private chat. Let me know who wants next on these topics. But I purposely kept this broad because I know one of the biggest tools that I'm using right now, because a lot of people will talk about Google Analytics for tracking their website and things like that. One of the biggest things that I'm doing to track my social media and just to see that I have progress is I have a Google Sheets, with basically, the Google version of Excel. And I just go in and I see what numbers are going up in places. So as I'm interacting on Clubhouse, I can sort of see the bump up in Instagram and Twitter followers. And as I'm on LinkedIn Live, I can see, a ton of people followed my YouTube show. Thank you for folks that did that last week so that I could see the bump from that. So I could just sort of see where I'm sort of getting things. So whether it's a Google sheet, Excel sheet, for tracking your numbers, or something like later.com or Canva for all your digital design, or an SLR camera, or Restream, or simply how you're using social media. I love getting into all these things, and hopefully people will get deep in the comments here and let us know what questions they have about using tools. Everybody's trying to expand their networks, make a profit. I really dig you talking about that, Damon, because that is a lot of the reason we do this is like, how can we actually expand our impact and make a difference? Mr. Steve Spiro, jump in here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Damon, thank you for that perspective, because I can so relate, right? I think you're right that you could do this however you want to do it. And the question I guess Cameron wanted us to address is, what are your goals for using social media? So, as Cameron mentioned earlier, I am very much a simple guy. Maybe even a simpleton, but basically I like to keep it simple. So to me, most of my focus is 100% on LinkedIn. And what is my goal there? Well, a few things. Number one is I'm looking to create, a brand that people know. If I'm reaching out to somebody, they know who I am. So I want them to, and it's obviously very transparent to what I'm about. Okay. So for me, number one, having a very strong presence is very important to me professionally, in terms of, and I've seen a lot of professional growth monetarily as a result of that as well. What I'm also using it for is to grow my network, because I believe that, again, sort of aligned with what I just said, is your network is in direct proportion with your net worth, right? So and then the third thing is community. I think for me, it's a way to break out of, I shared an opening. I'm a shy, introverted kid by nature, and to be able to break out and to reach out and connect with other people, to me, especially in the time we're in right now, where we're so, isolated, especially more in the Northeast. I know I was, in Florida twice, and it's not so locked down there, but up here it's really locked down, and being able to connect with other people. And I love LinkedIn because as I connect with people, and my protocol, my hack, if you will, is I every person I connect with, I want to have a phone call with or a Zoom call with. Everyone. Now, not everyone takes me up on it, but that is my purpose is those three things. And to me, it's been a blessing. And again, I'm not saying LinkedIn is the only way to go, but for me, it's the way, because again, there's a lot of my life and my plate, and I try to keep things simple. So that's my answer to the story. And the tool that I use, LinkedIn, period.
It seems to be working for you, Steve. Go ahead, Mike. I don't got sound on you.
I would have never been on this program if I didn't meet Steve through LinkedIn, and we had that call. I remember exactly where I was, and it was a great call. And now look, we're here. But in terms of my overall goal for social media, it's really just to meet amazing people that I otherwise believe I wouldn't have met. And that could, again, be Steve in this example here, or it could be, the person that I work with now, Kim Orleski out of Canada. And now I have the opportunity to do sales training for business owners all over North America. It's also how I met, the connection where I was able to be on my first podcast. So it's really helped me grow my personal brand, but I just like meeting amazing people, whether it's going to be doing, it could be doing business with them, but more so I like to learn from people who have achieved things or have gone places where I want to go. It's what other way, would you have to be able to make that connection and learn?
Love that. All right. Nick, I'm going to jump over to you. What's going on? Tell us your social media goals. Why are you on social media? What are you using it for?
My social media goals, I'm primarily real estate investing, and that has been an absolute game changer for me. I talk a little bit about how when I first started getting into investing, I had nothing. So I wasn't able to really start investing in the New York City market because it was too competitive. So I started looking into markets like, Georgia and Vegas and Florida, and some of the markets that the price points were a little lower. So I felt like I could jump in there. Had it not been for being able to use tools like social media to connect with people in other cities and states and make those connections, I would have never been able to get my business off the ground to where it is today. So connecting with different groups of people to make other connections has been amazing. I mean, exactly like what happened with Steve. I appreciate Steve reaching out, but I must have been on the meeting that we were on for 2 minutes, and he already messaged me and was like, here's my information. Let's jump on a Zoom and talk. And I was like, man, that's awesome. And then we got on and we had similar backgrounds, being from New York, being in martial arts. And then he introduced me to this group and Cameron and everybody on here and exposed you to new people. So that's what I love and what I use social media for, is to just put myself out there and gain connections for people that you never know when you'll be able to provide some value for them, whether it's today, 2 years from now, they have a connection who's looking to buy or sell a house, or you have somebody that you needed. That the weirdest opportunities have come up to me through real estate, through business, through podcasting, and socially, and even through jiu-jitsu, for just connecting with other people on all sorts of social media. And it's just been amazing. So that's what I've used it for, is growth. And I'd say cross-pollination, to be exposed to people that I normally wouldn't have been interacting with. And I love that, because of social media, cops and robbers are talking every single day. They would never have come together on the street like that or in normal society, but people integrate in a much better way on social media, and introverts have a way to have a voice.
I love it. And Maggie's saying she's using social media to raise brand awareness. Damon, we got this question on the back end. We also have a question from the audience, so I'll throw that in the mix, but I know you already started talking about how your goals have changed since you started your journey into social media. So we want to throw this around real quick to everybody on the panel, just to see if things have changed since the first day you started on social media to what it is now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I could probably touch on that a couple bullet points along the journey. When I got into social media, probably the first real exposure, if we don't count MySpace, was, Facebook in 2007. And so at that point, it was just like, hey, other people are there, friends are there. So I didn't really have an intent behind it. And then probably where I was really intentful for it was after I said I changed my journey on LinkedIn after deleting everything and then coming back. So prior to that, there was no real focus. And when I had LinkedIn is by far the largest platform that I engage on. But prior to that 2-3 year mark, a little bit ago, I was the same as a lot of people. I had a LinkedIn profile and it was just gathering dust. I mean, it was probably some sort of resume that I made 15 years before I started my company. And then when I got intentful about it, then I think at the beginning that intent was, as an entrepreneur, it was obviously business growth. But as I started to figure out that dance of how do I present business expertise in my space, it's SEO. So how do I talk about that, but also bring the personal appeal to it? What's been surprising is that the personal interest has by far overtaken the business interest, but they serve each other. So as I've found the opportunity to come to a social media platform and just share advice without expecting anything in return. I can give you two perfect examples. Just the other day, 2 days ago, I got a message from a gentleman in like a third world country. And he's like, hey, I've been following you for a while and you've inspired me in this way and that way. Can we talk? And so those are the parts that I personally enjoy, is giving those messages of impact that, you don't know. You can kind of see the vanity metrics of how far your posts go and the engagement, but you don't really know that one-on-one impact until somebody messages you. And so I personally doubled down on that part of it. But that also feeds the business side, because as you grow, the second example is a gentleman that messaged me this morning. Well, he messaged me the other day, but we had a phone call this morning. And he said, look, I reached out just because I trust you. Like, I've seen the posts that you put out there. I see the transparency. I see that you don't send the people to the call to action and you just give the advice without expecting anything in return. So it's been a great reward to be able to focus on the personal interest in building those relationships, but then it also supports the growth of the team and the company as well.
Unmute 2020 theme song.
Thank you for that, Damon. And I want to, because I know we got people that are going to continue on this, how the journey has changed as you jumped onto social media. But I want to address, I love addressing audience questions. And we have an audience question from Mr. Pasquale Palumbo. So I want to make sure that we're addressing it. And so he says, is it possible to be too spread out across social media platforms? Now, I know for Steve and even for myself, because I've sort of adopted a little bit of just trying to be focused and really intentional. Like Steve is like, I think you are on Facebook. I think you have a profile, but for the most part, it's like, if you want to deal with Steve, it's LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, for me, I took your advice, Cameron. I did on most of my other platforms. I basically wrote, if you want to reach me, go to LinkedIn. Basically, it's what I wrote, because I'm not on them. I really am not, and I know they're valuable, but not for me.
So that's a great way for anybody, just as a FYI, right? You don't want to divide your attention. You put the placeholder, you get your profile name, secure that. And because I think one of the biggest lessons, from thought leaders and people can chime in on this is, if you are not in and a part of the conversation, then you're kind of going to let somebody else talk about you without you being in the conversation. So by being on the platforms, by holding that space, you get to be a part of the conversation. And you can tell people you're over on LinkedIn. If they want to find you, you've given them the flag to find you, right? Go ahead, Christine. Up on mute. I got you. You're good.
Great. I just wanted to chime in on this, since I am a social media strategist and I help people figure out this question a lot. And what I would say, I understand your point, Cameron, about how if you're not part of that conversation, someone else will be. But on the other hand, I would say that, you have to keep that balance very careful, because any place could be the only place people see you. And if they see you not showing up, and if they see you not bringing quality, or if they see you just recycling something that was clearly auto-posted from someplace else, that creates a bad impression. The way Steve is doing it is fine, because he's being very upfront about the fact that, this isn't the place where I'm going to be bringing value. This other place is where I'm going to be really showing up and bringing it. But I would caution people. A lot of people feel like they need to be everywhere, and then they're actually leaving a bad impression in the places where they technically are present, but they're not nurturing that presence. So I would say you don't have to be everywhere. You do have to be where you will consistently show up. What type of content will you actually be creating that's of value? What type of places will you actually be participating in conversations, which is arguably more important than creating content? What will you actually nurture? I think that that's a bigger question to ask. And if that's one or two platforms, that is fine. But just make sure that you don't have a presence on other platforms for presence's sake and then leave a bad impression there. And I'm guilty of this too. I mean, my YouTube channel is very neglected, but but I would say don't feel as much pressure to be everywhere. Feel the pressure to be the best you can be where you're going to be.
I love that. All right. So we got folks that want to jump in. I'm gonna say Steve, and then we'll go to Mike. Go ahead, Steve.
So first of all, Christine, thank you. And I just got to point out something. Did you notice how Christine's background matches her lip, matches her. And she's like that all around. I remember we did a couple of live events together, and I think she had like, I want to say like a really cool leather short coat, and it was like the same color as her hair, and like she is like the branding queen when it comes to color. I just got to say that. Just a side note, by the way. But anyway, I know earlier Cameron, you wanted us to talk a little bit about how goals have changed. So I'm just going to jump back on that topic for a moment. And I think for me, early on in LinkedIn, I was in business development in the HR world, and honestly, I was using LinkedIn to get appointments, to really.
Uh-oh, we got a little bit of freezing going on. He's going to hold that thought for a second, everybody. All right. So our next question, because I don't want to beat the how things have changed. We can incorporate that into. But the next question I want to throw out there is, what is one tool that you do not use now because it did not work for you in the past, or maybe things have changed, so we can kind of incorporate that, right? Maybe the goals have changed. And so either way, what's something that you've used and you've kind of moved on from? I'm really interested in the audience telling us what tools they've kind of, maybe they paid for and they never used, and all that kind of stuff. I love it. Christine, go ahead and jump in. And then guys, let me know who wants to jump in. I know Mike, did you want to get in? You're on mute.
No, have Christine start. I can follow up.
All right, very good. Go ahead, Christine.
All right. So again, I'm kind of focused on live streaming today because Friday I'm on a live stream, first of all, and my show was earlier today. But I will say I'm hesitant to ever badmouth a tool. So this is an excellent tool, just not for me anymore. And that is BeLive. BeLive.tv is actually the first third-party live streaming tool that I ever used. So prior to that, I was just going live natively on Facebook. And so BeLive enabled me to pre-schedule. It enabled me to put my logo up in the corner and to make my red be, at the bottom, and all of these things. And so I did really get a lot of great use out of BeLive. But then once I got a bit more live streaming experience under my belt, I did want more customization. I wanted a higher level of customization of all the bells and whistles and features that I could do. And the show that I have now on Ecamm, I have an overlay where I have like our faces in spotlights and like multiple guests, and I have like a ticker at the bottom. I have all these different things that I do. On occasion, I'll do a show that even has like a little timer. I have an intro video. A lot of these are features that most live streaming softwares have, but I feel like Ecamm lets me do all the bells and whistles at a higher production level. So even though BeLive is amazing and people who use it like love it, and they totally should, I will say that that's a tool that I sort of outgrew in terms of what I wanted became something that surpassed its capabilities. And to a similar end, actually, I'm going to say the next one for the next question. But yeah.
Sounds good. All right, Mike, you're up. I'm going to take you off mute. Go ahead. Go. You can still on mute.
Hey.
There you go.
Yeah, so the tool I used, and again, similar to Christine, it's a great tool. I won't speak bad of it. What I found was it just wasn't for me. Is a plugin for LinkedIn called Octopus CRM, and it's an automation tool that lets you can send out mass automated messages. You can do automated profile views, automated connection requests. And after using it a little bit, I found one, it was, a little bit burdensome, because if you send out too many, then LinkedIn realizes and kicks you out of your page and you have to re-log in. And then ultimately just realize I really value organic relationships and organic conversations. And I'd rather spend more time having better conversations with less people than trying to scale out some kind of crazy automation on my LinkedIn.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely. I think we live and we learn, right, with these tools. So I love that. Who was up next? I think it was Damon. Go ahead, Damon. Let me get you off mute.
Dang it, I was doing so good at not doing that. I had to have it happen. All right, so I'm actually going to probably give a bit of a surprising answer is I don't use any freaking tools other than, maybe live streams. So when it comes to posting content, I don't use any tools. The reason why is I've used them in the past, but what happens is when two things happen. One is, to Mike's point, you kind of lose a little bit of authenticity, but two is the reach actually devalues. So what happens is when these plugins go out, they connect to an API to these social platforms, and these social platforms realize it comes through an API, which means it realizes it's not a live or manual, or I don't want to say genuine, but it's not like you pushing a button and actually triggering the post. So what happens is those APIs often will devalue the exposure of those automated posts. So that's what got me into kind of playing with not using tools. Now, then probably one of the next thoughts is like, okay, how do you scale, whether it's your engagement or your network or whatever, without using some sort of automation? You can scale it, but you can do it manually. So I'll tell you how I do it. So I mapped out this like huge org chart of, I have, this team member do this team member do that. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to keep the authenticity. So as I spoke on earlier, I want to foster the relationships that I establish, but I also want to scale them. So what I do is any post I make is truly me, because I want that actual posting engagement to follow. But on the connections, I'll have my team members that go out and look for certain types of criteria to initiate a conversation. If they reply, it comes to me. So that way my team can scale the outreach. I can foster these relationships, but I'm not living in my DMs. So if somebody replies back and just says like, hey, thanks for the connection in the end, if it's not an opportunity to further the conversation, I'll leave it there. But every morning I wake up to 50 something Skypes from my team members that say, Damon, here's a post with an opportunity to foster a relationship. Damon, here's a DM with an opportunity to foster a relationship. So that way my team can take and fulfill the need to scale and reach and engage, but I can foster the relationships with a one-to-one Damon to person opportunity. So I actually don't use tools nearly at all.
I love that. All right, so I want to open this question up to the whole panel here. Anson says, what are the top recommendations for email campaigns? So who wants to jump in first on that? And we'll just kind of go round robin real quick for everybody that's doing email campaigns. And I'll answer for myself just to get started. I'm terrible with I've tried to get into MailChimp and all these things, and for whatever reason, I get a brain fart right immediately as I get in these platforms. I don't go anywhere with it. So what I do is I just use a Google document. I have my comma separated values. I've gotten very fancy with my Excel sheets as I'm pulling lists from LinkedIn events and whatnot. And I'm able to, hopefully I don't murder this word, concatenate and take that list and put it into a comma separated list of emails that I can just copy and paste into a Google Calendar thing to put things on people's calendar, and to also send out emails to be in people's email box, which are the most effective ways that I've been able to get people to show up to the networking events and some of the other things that I've been doing. So what are ways that you guys are using email campaigns? Are you using anything, software? Go ahead, Christine.
So I've been using MailChimp, but I've had a lot of my friends tell me that it is really time to outgrow that tool. And they have really strongly recommended ActiveCampaign or ConvertKit, because those just have higher levels of automations that you can program in. They both allow you to put your data to far greater use and to connect to way more things. It's just about operating on a higher level and taking it a little deeper. I haven't changed yet. I am still on MailChimp, but I do plan to move to ActiveCampaign or ConvertKit later this year.
Yeah, I think that I've heard some of those suggestions as well. I want to just mention some of the people in the comments here. We got a lot of interactions, engagements. Angie Lake says you don't need tools because you have a team. I think that's in reference to Damon, and I like that. Abel, hello. Alan says MailerLite, right?
Heard good things about that one too.
Angie is correcting her spelling punctuation, I think, here. Easy to use, and it has some great templates. He's talking about MailerLite. It's amazing how old school still works just fine. Yes, that's true, Sylvia. Sometimes the easiest, low cost is the best. Right? Tools, Angie Legg. So I was thinking, all right, active campaign and small says in ConvertKit, a lot of people talking about those. So we want to hear from you in the comments. If you're using tools and you're actually getting value from them, please let us know in the comments what you're using. Anybody else on the panel want to talk about what they're using? Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
So I'll echo again. I've heard great things about Active Campaign, but for somebody who is potentially going to outsource this or has other people on their team, one thing that I suggest that I recently did was I set up a bunch of intro stuff, like in demos and things with a bunch of different ones to see how they work together, which ones work better for me. But what I did was I knew that my assistant was going to be the one that was going to be handling the email campaigns. So if you have somebody on your team that is going to be in charge of that, I would go and I would try a bunch of different ones because they'll give you free trials. And then a lot of them have an onboarding person. And then what I did is I knew the stuff that I liked there, but that's not my superpower. That's not my strength. So after we looked at all of them, I asked my assistant who was going to be managing the email campaigns, which one works better for you? What's the one that you think you're going to be able to operate with the most efficiency? Because that's what really matters at the end of the day is, and for her personally, Active Campaign almost had too much stuff that she was like, I'm overwhelmed with this. Let's start with Exact. This works for me. And as we start to build up and I'm more comfortable, then, in a few months, we can upgrade to some of the bells and whistles with Active Campaign. But there almost would have been a paralysis analysis for her trying to relearn that system. So, find out what's working best for the person who's going to be managing your specific email campaigns is my advice on that.
Yeah. And we got a couple of comments from the panel on the back end. Steve talking about he can speak about how he doesn't use it, and Mike also saying he doesn't use it. So the only thing, because I feel like I'm remiss if I don't say it. So I want you all to think about, and I had a great Biz Dev Live with Tara Lashenko. She was talking about how you should diversify your business and think differently. I want you to think about, and this is for Steve and for anybody out there, especially if you're big on a platform, what happens if that platform goes down tomorrow? What happens if that channel or those channels go away, or now there's suddenly a burdensome cost? I was, hearing the conversation from, I think it was Twitter, I believe that, may start charging or allow an option like a Patreon kind of thing where you can have a paid version for extra tweets or something like that. And, the sort of the controversy on the article was maybe they're thinking about it the wrong way. Maybe the influencer needs to pay. And so that starts a whole nother conversation because we're so used to these platforms being free and without getting into the whole debate about cancel culture. What happens if this platform goes down? So how are you taking your community and taking that offline and able to retain it and use it? And one of the things that's really fabulous about LinkedIn is that you can actually go and download a lot of your connections. Now, privacy features and everything, that list probably won't have a lot of the emails on it, but you can manually go in. If you have 11,000 connections, that's a big job. You have 3,000 connections, that's a big job. But if you're at 500, you just start that list now. So hint, if you're wanting to do that, start now. It's a lot easier when your list is small. Anybody else want to talk to that before we kind of move on to our next topic? Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. What I've done on a regular basis is I actually go and request from LinkedIn the database, and I haven't had no issues getting it, and it actually comes in most cases with all the emails. So that's a safe bet if you're just concerned about that. But I think you take a step back, and I like Damon's approach to this because I'm more relationally based. I'm not looking to sell per se, so relationally based. That's the approach I'm going. So. When you think about what an email campaign is about, right? You're trying to create a community or people that you're reaching, and you want to have a message being broadcast. And it's usually it's a community that have opted in, that want to know what you know. They want to hear your message, right? So that's why I gravitated towards LinkedIn, because that's exactly what it serves as for me, right? Again, it's a place that I'm able to broadcast a message to people that agreed they wanted to connect with me. And the good added value there is that, second and third connections, if anyone's liking my message, second and third connections are going to hear my message as well. So that's kind of my mentality. For me, LinkedIn has become that CRM tool and the MailChimp, if you will, because any message I post, in my case, I'm just shy of 12,000 connections are actually potentially seeing my message. And if they don't want, they can unconnect with me, right? So that's, to me, that's the best tool that I use.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to say when I get on my one-on-ones, right, and I'm there meeting with somebody, I really try to focus on the story, try to get somebody's story out of them. And sometimes they're reticent to really share. And so I got the profile, their history. I'm like, I was just on a line with a gentleman this morning, and he was in the Peace Corps and in the Philippines, and he was in school in Hawaii. He didn't share any of that. I was like, let me dig in here and get a little bit of the feeling and the story out of it. So I use it that way. Also, when I send that first connection request, if I'm connecting that with them from a networking meeting, it's a great way to remember where I met them, because that's my first message is, hey, I'm connecting to you, from the Master Connection series with Steve Spiro, and I'm looking forward to connecting and collaborating and starting that. So now I can go back and I can remember where they met, and it's just easy that way. I don't have to go and fill in a lot of CRM databases and transfer the information over here and over there, right? It just makes it easy. I know, Damon, you want to jump in. Go ahead, Damon.
Yeah, before he does, can I just say one quick thing? So one thing that I do is, and we talked about how do you get the content over to outside the platform. Everyone that connects with me with on LinkedIn, that we do have a call set up. I'm setting up nowadays 99.9% on through Calendly, and Calendly is a free app, and you could upgrade. I actually did for $10 a month, but irrelevant. But what it does is it has the ability to ask questions, and some of the questions required fields are their phone number, their email, right? And how we know each other, how we met. And so that also helps, to your point, Cameron, about, how the context of how we know each other. That's another way that we could do it. But in a sense, what's happened for me is anyone that I'm connecting with that we're having a dialogue and going to a phone call or Zoom, they're actually going into my phone now, and they're actually a contact in my phone. And to be honest, that's how I've gotten to 17,000 contacts in my phone, through people that I've connected through LinkedIn and other means.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm just going to say here, let me go ahead, Damon, and then we'll go Kristen. And then we're at 2:46, and I want to respect everybody's time. For everybody that's in the comments, list out the tools. Give me a list of tools that you love, you live by. I'll go back to mine. Canva is like one of those top ones that I've just been using over the last year. What tools are you using? Give us a list so we can add value to everybody that's watching and listening. Go ahead, Christine. Or Damon, and then Christine. Go ahead, Damon.
Yeah, I'll be super quick. I was just going to add a comment about, the question about what if a platform goes down or becomes unrealistic to maintain. I think what you can do is learn to become a storyteller, because you can take that to any platform. I mean, an example is, look, I've been a 14-year agency owner. I have a team of 20. I just hired 3 more. We're at 23 now. We're pushing for 30. We're a 7-figure agency. I have no email list. I have no funnel. I have no automation. And the majority of our business comes from referrals and social proof. And then, maybe later I can talk about, if time permits, how example of one story on one post brought one client, that brought a second client, that brought the Utah Jazz as a third client, 3 new clients within 3 weeks from one post. So there's beauty, and opportunity is endless in all these, but you also, as the comment was made earlier, don't get caught up in analysis paralysis. You can accomplish huge things without having to overcomplicate and intertwine a million different tools.
Yeah, I love that. All right, Christine, you're up.
I'd almost speak to sort of the opposite of that, which is, I feel like by not putting all of that into a MailChimp or into some sort of platform, you're cutting yourself off at the knees in terms of what that list can do for you. It's incredibly valuable to be able to see things like your open rate, your click rate, what sort of things people are clicking on. I think that that's incredibly valuable. Otherwise, I feel like you're just putting things out into a void. I think it is so incredibly simple to access those incredible levels of data, even if you don't connect them to automations, even if you don't connect, your email to your website pixel, to all of that stuff, even if you don't get to that level with it, even just the bare bones basic user feedback of what actions are they taking? What kind of subject lines are they actually opening? What sort of links are they actually clicking? I think it's tremendously valuable to even have that information. And I can't imagine really doing an email program without it.
Sure. Yeah. Could I add one comment to that?
Yeah, please.
So I think what I'm presenting is not to say do it my way, don't do it that way. I'm just saying there are other ways.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it makes a lot of sense to follow that path. I'm not saying don't do that, but for me, I am intentionally not wanting to do that because I have a different type of client that I want to approach. I don't want to chase a sell. I don't want to look at how far in the sequence they've clicked. That's not to say that I'm right. That's just what I want. So I'm just presenting the opportunity that you can figure out which path works for you, and it doesn't have to be one or the other.
And limiting that communication is a strategic choice, to your point.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. And I it's about the work you want to do and how you want it, what strategy you want to take. Because it also gets into, we can get into the conversation of, when we're talking about tools, I've advertised for Toth Event Staffing on Facebook, and it's a small amount of money, and a big argument can be made for that's something that's really worthwhile paid versus organic. And I love what Damon's talking about and what we should all be going for, and what I think you consistently see. And I'm going to say this just to provide value to the audience, especially on LinkedIn. We're all on LinkedIn here, that for the most part, and watching this show. A yes or no question. And I've advised people on this, and I see them not taking my advice, and they have, and I don't do every single post like this. So I don't want you to go to my profile and, well, Cameron, you didn't do that post like that. But I'm saying when I'm looking for engagement and I want to create a post that is going to get people talking and commenting, this is the template that I follow. A yes or no question. Why a yes or no question? Because if I say, do you like social media? You immediately go to an answer. You can immediately have a response versus what is your strategy on social media? That gets into another type of thought. It's not as brain friendly. If I say to you, do you like social media? It's a yes or no response. There's a emotional response to it. And then I'm going to put some information, because now I'm saying, do you like yes or no? And then I'm going to add the persuasive thing. So you only see the first line. If you're interested, which I got your emotion, you're going to go in and check it out. It's going to have a powerful photo or video that I can create with Canva. Canva is a great tool for doing that. So I'm talking about a tool in terms of your post, an organic post that you're creating, right? It could be a picture of you with a famous person. I've had a post of, with myself with Barbara Corcoran, or it could simply be a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. Whatever your strategy there is, you follow this yes or no question, some information, maybe 3 to 7 hashtags that are appropriate for it. That'll help with SEO and search rankings within the algorithm of LinkedIn. And then the secret sauce, once you put the photo or video and you do the post, is send it to Christine, send it to myself, send it to Steve, and ask us to comment on it. When we do, that is something that LinkedIn loves, and starts sending it to second, third, which was one of the things that has created a great community with even this show, because there's so many comments on this show. It pushes it to second, third contacts. So there might only be 40 somewhat people watching live during the show, but it gets to 800 views. It gets to 1,000 views within a day of the show going on, because the algorithm loves it. And I see this, Ramon Ray with smarthustle.com is really great at this. He's on Twitter and he uses the same strategy, name dropping, tagging people in there.
I'm speaking at his conference on March 10th.
That's right. So, you could do this on all the different platforms, but it's really effective on LinkedIn because the algorithm loves it. Canva is a great way to create those images. Taking, Google and finding Google Trends and different things are great ways to find topics. Have fun with it. All right. That's my spiel. All right. We got a lot of comments that I missed. Who wanted to jump in? Show me a hand. I got Damon. Did you want to jump in?
No, I added my take when Christine and I had the chance to talk about figuring out what works best for your individual scenario.
I think Nick wanted to add a comment on email. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say on email, something that I've had people do is I've hired people just to reach out, because everybody's emails just get blasted and blasted, and a lot of times you don't know who it is. And I found a massive difference in the opening and the people that'll stick with it and the people that'll actually respond and look at your stuff. If somebody even just takes 2 minutes to say, hey, you went on my site, or you reached out to Nick, this is where the email's coming from, this is the kind of stuff we're having, I just want to introduce myself. You can call me, you can call him, but just some sort of personal interaction to say, hey, look out for this email. I'm a real person. So when you see it, if you don't recognize it, don't just start deleting and unsubscribing from my stuff. And I found people very much appreciate that. It really makes you stick out sometimes when, you're just getting blasted from all the people that you've been interacting with, or all the lists or whatever you got sold to. Just that little bit of personal attention really helps go a long way.
And while you're talking about that, tips on crafting a subject line to get better hits, right? So whether it's on a post or via email, we can tackle both sides of this. But what are some of your tips on crafting subject lines? Not everybody all at once. Go ahead, Christine.
Making it feel personable, but here's the thing. Some people try to get too sneaky with that. They'll like start the email subject line with RE : blah, blah, blah to make it seem like it's a response. That's kind of sketch. There are more genuine ways to do it and to make it almost seem like, ideally, the thing is you want them to see your subject line and at first glance wonder if it's a direct email to them or if it's to your list. And again, hit the right note there. You don't want it to be deceptive, but it needs to be conversational, because if it really blares out newsletter at them or business email at them, not only will they not open it, but also you're more likely to get pushed to the spam folder, which impacts your overall delivery rate. So carefully treading that line of making it feel like it could, in theory, be right to them without deceptively actively pretending it's direct to them. And I'll also say a lot of email programs have a name tag that you can put in there so that the subject line immediately goes to, "Hey, Cameron, I wanted to show you this for your list." I would say with that also, the best place to use that, in my opinion, is less about the subject line and more about, there's a little bit of preview text in a lot of things that you are able to put in there. Preview text so that when they see the title of the email, then they see a little bit of preview text. That is, I believe, and I've heard this and I've seen this, the most effective place to put your name tag in. Because if a human's writing an email to you, they're not necessarily putting your name in the subject line, but they are beginning the email with your name.
Yeah, I think this is something that's really close to my heart. Getting an email that says, "Hello, Cameron," and then it's like 4 paragraphs of stuff that has nothing to do with me. So super personal. "Hey, Cameron. Hi, Cameron." But it's all about the person that's sending it to me and not actually about me. I think keep it short, keep it sweet. Do you have this challenge? I have this solution. Click here. Let me choose yes or no. Let me make the decision on that. I also think there's people that are like, "Hey, how are you doing?" They actually write that in the email. And it's like, you don't care. You're because the next thing that you're saying is, you have this service, and are you even the right person to talk to in this department of your company? Like, okay. Don't waste your time on that email. If you're going to send an email, get somebody that, if you can't do it yourself, or you can't look at the best practices of it, or can't just keep it simple, like, "Hey, do you have this problem? I have this solution. Click here." Guys, we can be smarter than that. Just be really clear and crisp and to the point. You don't need to sell your service if you're offering something of value. It's an opportunity for the person. And if you think about that, then it gets a bit easier to write your copy. Anyone else want to jump in on this? Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. So I'm not a big email blaster guy, but I do email. And so one of the things to kind of spin off of what Cameron was talking about, I find it very effective if you can say, how other, because people have fear, the FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, right? So and if you know what business category they're in, or there's something about them, one of my emails might say something like, how other law firms are dealing with this, this new normal regarding X, Y, and Z. So it's relevant to them, right? And it makes them feel like, okay, well, what are other law firms doing? Maybe I need to look at this, right? So just something to keep in mind. I find it to be an effective messaging for the subject line. And then, of course, get right to the point. I also try to keep it to 1 paragraph, maybe a few bullets, and that's it, right? People's attention spans are super, super short. So, and that's the challenge that I have personally with some of the email platforms. Every time I get them, I know they're coming from a platform. I don't feel like the person's emailing me, and honestly, I don't read them. Like 99% of the emails I get that have a formatting like that, I know they're coming from a MailChimp. Personally, I don't read them. So just something to keep in mind. And if I have a trick or tip, I won't do it on this call here, but if anyone wants to know how you take an Excel spreadsheet and actually blast out email without using BCC, and you want it to be an individual email, I have a tip or trick I could share on how to do that.
Love that. Yeah, I think that, having those critical pieces that make it easier to do this stuff is really good. I mean, it just makes life easier, having a system in place, how you answer stuff, template stuff. Because when I'm talking about, an email that, is specific to something, it doesn't have to be overly complicated. It can be a template piece, but it's just targeted. You know who you're going after, you know who your audience is, and you're going after it, right? I wanted to, I had a question here, and I think I lost it, but I wanted to highlight some of the great comments from our folks here. Lisa Weisner, yes, I'm totally been put off and reported as spam because of that. Authenticity matters. Awesome feedback. Christine, oh my, from Sylvia White, that is so important. The personal interaction works a lot. You are not just a name, but a customer. Angie Legg, copy is a whole nother form. Yes, indeed. Denise Vargas have found that the influencer comments and the lurkers are the ones that become clients, need both. Yeah, I don't know if anybody wants to speak to that, but the idea that, not only are the loudmouths like maybe me on LinkedIn important, but there's a lot of people that are engaging. I get 200 views on a post on a given day. Most of them aren't commenting. Most of them aren't necessarily hitting the thumb mark. But one of the things, and I think that's really valuable about social media for those that are using it for their business and aren't just, social media and selling SEO on that kind of thing. So really just, your business, what you're using it for. I don't really always look, especially for Toth Event Staffing, that I'm going to acquire new customers with my Facebook post or anything, but I'm staying in front of my existing relationships so that there's something to talk about. So when they're talking to their friends, oh yeah, I remember Toth Event Staffing, they remember my name, maybe even with the kids' photos and all that stuff, which is where I throw the Facebook stuff. So I will, friend customers, even though most of the stuff I try to drive to LinkedIn for the business. But these are ways to stay in front of people and maintain these relationships. So we're closing in on the end of the hour here. I know Damon wants to jump in. Go ahead.
I'll just kind of elaborate. We just touched on about being top of mind. I think that's the beauty in social media is if you go at it with the approach of giving value and establishing those relationships and aren't necessarily paying attention to those vanity metrics. I mean, certainly you want to take the opportunity to figure out what time of day works best for you or how you can maximize that reach without getting into entirely the vanity metrics. Like one example for me is I get the best reach between 6 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. So I focus on posting my content in that window, but I still focus the topics of the content on things that are valuable to me or personal to me. So I don't get into like the gamification of it, but look where you can amplify whatever authentic thing you are going to bring to the table, maybe based on time. But like you said, it's staying in front, top of mind. And so what happens, at least in the experience of how I approach social media and social proof, is you find these like perfect storms where you give value. And it's like we were talking earlier, $1 in, $2 out, $1 in, $2 out, $1 in, thousands of dollars out, where as you're top of mind, you get referrals from people that you don't even know. I mean, it's probably every other week that I have a conversation or a new lead or a Zoom appointment where they say, so-and-so referred me to you because they always see their content. This morning I had a lead call where his wife referred him because she always sees the content. So don't get caught up in like the vanity metrics of, did I get 100 views or 1,000 views today? Because really only it matters is that one right view. And so it can take time, but next thing you know, 3 weeks later, 3 months later, you get 5-10 leads all within a week instead of paying attention to just the one lower quality lead on when you're paying attention too much to the vanity metrics. I
love that. Yeah, I think, you talked about it before, Damon, and this is why we're talking about social media, not only, for LinkedIn, the power networking, but the fact that you can gain a following, you can bring a community together, go back 25 years, and there's just no way to bring communities together. There's no equity of if you're someplace else in the world where there's just not a lot of people thinking about the thing, you could be literally interested in anything and bring that community together, whether it's comics or cards or, universal religion or whatever kind of interest you have, you can bring people around it, dangerously so, on some things, but you take the good with the bad. And so you have this amazing opportunity with this cell phone in your hand to reach the world. I got to love Mr. Steve Spiro's Fired Up Fridays. So with his phone, with his computer, he can inspire the masses with his Fired Up Friday. You can make this simple and you can reach a lot of people and you can influence a lot of people. I want to go around and just get some closing statements as we are at the top of the hour, as we always do, go run a little over. I want to thank my audience for hanging out with us. We definitely want to hear more of your questions and comments. We'll follow up during the week. I know Christine has been head down deep into her comments because that's what she's about as we're going here, which I appreciate. So we're going to go around the room in my screen order here. We'll go Mike and then Christine and then Damon and then Nick, and we'll save the master connector for last here. Go ahead, Mike, just some closing statements and how can people actually reach you and what's your preferred social network. I also know that we did have a question while we're going from Denise, because she was saying she's having trouble figuring out which social media is her platform. And I know the common answer to that is, well, where are your customers at? So maybe everybody can sort of take a moment to say where they focus on and why, and maybe that'll help Denise. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate question is really, if not where are your customers, what is the audience you're trying to reach, but also where do you feel most comfortable? I think there is something to be said for starting where you're comfortable. I know in terms of like creating my own content, I was a little too shy to go straight to video or something else. Even hearing my voice was uncomfortable for a while. So I started out by blogging. I just wrote a blog and I found that, okay, I was comfortable putting out a written blog post. And then it helped me get more comfortable to create other types of content where now I do video, audio, and all of the above. And then in terms of closing comments, you can reach me on LinkedIn is my favorite platform. I definitely pretty much up until the past few months when I joined Clubhouse was focusing 100% on LinkedIn. Now I'm splitting my time between LinkedIn and Clubhouse at Mike Mack on Clubhouse. And it was great to be with everybody today. Look forward to connecting on other platforms and on LinkedIn after this conversation.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you for being here. Go ahead, Christine. On.
All right. So first of all, I just want to echo what Mike said because I loved it so much. The conventional wisdom is be where your customers are, but honestly, I feel like you're going to do better and get more comfortable if you actually start with where you're going to shine the brightest. Whatever type of content shows you off the best, whatever type of content or types of conversational conventions are really going to show you in your best light. That's really where you should be focusing your efforts. I also had an experience where I was very frustrated for a number of years because I really wanted my top platform to be Facebook, but the thing that kept catching on was Twitter. And I was actively kind of mad at it because I was like, but the people who hire me, if they're on social media at all, they're on Facebook. They're not on Twitter. But Twitter, I was killing it among the audience of my peers who weren't paying me. So then I eventually decided to do something that I actually recommend that a lot of people do, which is rather than trying to push what keeps not working, if something is working, how can you put that to work for you? So the way that I did that was instead of sitting there getting mad at Twitter and saying, why are people following me here? This is my least favorite platform. I leaned into it. I started developing some great relationships that led to developing kind of a following, and nurturing those relationships led to that just growing and getting stronger. Not only did I get a lot of opportunities from my Twitter audience, I also shifted my offerings. I shifted what I was bringing to the table because I said, if this is the audience that I'm catching on with, instead of bemoaning the fact that they're not my audience, you know what? They are. They're the audience I've got. That's what's catching on. How can I serve them? How can I change the way that I'm serving in order to serve the audience that I'm actually catching fire with? And so I would say worry less about where you should be and more about where you want to be, because that will lead you to a really productive journey.
I love that. And always focusing on the goals, right? And we had the most tweetable comment of the day. Don't be mad at Twitter. There we go.
I love Twitter now.
Mr. Damon Burton, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to actually add a couple things to that. So I agree with Mike on use the platform you're comfortable with, and I agree with Christine on, active and dead is worse than not having a profile on channel at all, where she mentioned that earlier. You don't have to be everywhere. I think it's worse when you go to like a Facebook business page and it looks like a ghost town and there's dust everywhere. So I think there's a lot of value in being where your audience is. And also what Christine said, if something is working, lean into it. So for example, for me, LinkedIn is where I get a lot of traction. Where I am not is TikTok, and I'm not there for two reasons. One is that my audience really isn't there, and two, even if they were, I don't want to be the dancing SEO guy. So you got to go where your audience is. And interesting, another interesting comment is that with LinkedIn being the platform where I get the most engagement on, what I found is people will follow me over to Facebook and then convert on Facebook. So LinkedIn is where I get the engagement, but Facebook is where I personally enjoy spending the time. So I've figured out how can I balance both, where I bring the type of content that I want to. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll post first on Facebook because that's where I naturally am, but then I'll take that topic and then I'll re-engage it on LinkedIn, and then I'll get the exposure there, and then people get acclimated and they get used to the personality, they build trust with you, and then they may follow you over to the channel of your preference where you might be more active and then convert there. So it takes a little bit of experimentation to find out what your voice is on which platform and to figure out how to do the dance, but I think you need to do the dance to figure out what works best for you.
Yeah, I think, there's nothing that beats experience, right? I think that's, at the end of the day, whatever you're doing, right, the experience of it is a big deal. I think one of the things, and hopefully the audience members are getting this, they're getting some lessons learned from us. They're not getting frustrated. They're not getting mad at Twitter necessarily, because they understand it's not the only way, right? You can do things a little bit differently. And at the same time, if Twitter's working for you, hey, maybe there's some merit to it. Nick, take us out here. Go ahead.
So I agree with what everybody's saying. I also do feel like I'm a big believer that when you're comfortable with something, you're going to do better with it. And I know that there's a lot of FOMO of like, well, I'm just learning Facebook and now people are over TikTok and now I'm on TikTok and everybody's on Clubhouse all day saying how much money they're making there. And I think you can drive yourself crazy and get very overwhelmed with all of the different platforms. So my advice would be whatever one you're most comfortable with, start to really focus in on using that. You'll start to get better at automating that, maybe outsourcing that, or just being able to knock out what you want on there quickly. And that will open up some time for you to now say, okay, you know what? Facebook's running pretty smooth. Let me go play around on Instagram a little bit. And then it'll be weird and you won't really understand it at first. And then you'll start to catch on. And then you'll start to see, like Damon said, people are starting to follow you over there. And then that starts to grow. And, I think it's important to gradually increase to all these other platforms and not stay stagnant, because more importantly than anything, as we've seen with the pandemic, business always pivots. And if you built your whole nest egg on MySpace, that's gone now, and then Clubhouse is big. So I think you have to be aware that there is a certain amount of responsibility that if you want to have a social presence and you want to grow a brand or a business, you have to be familiar and aware a little bit on what's out on them, but you don't have to be on them all day, every day. And like everybody keeps saying, if you just start to pay attention to them a little bit and study them, you'll start to see where you're getting the most amount of traction, where you're getting the most response with the least amount of effort. And your focus, I think, is always going to change over the years as your needs change and as your audience changes and as business changes. So, be open, but don't be overwhelmed would be a synopsis of that. And just how you can find me, if you go to nick3nicks.com/links. It's got all the links for me on all social media, as well as my podcast, the A Game Podcast, if anybody wants to reach out.
Definitely the best website here, nick.com. We love it. Good SEO. I was on Clubhouse the other night, and we had David Landgraf talking about, because he's setting up vaccination spots in the city, and he was talking about, he put his new website together, and it's Make It Happen, and then he's got MGMT, and Ramon Ray was on there with us, and he was like, I just went online and I looked and saw that it's available. It says Make It Happen, David. Pick that up. You can have it forward to the other website, Dame, but it's a whole lot easier to say Make It Happen, David, than Make It Happen, MGMT. So little things like that, folks. If you're doing stuff, you're online, you're speaking about it, it costs $10-12 to buy a domain for a year, and that could turn into how many thousands of dollars of business in terms of extra people easily finding your website. So go visit nick.com, right?
I bought ChristineGrittman.com, even though my actual website is Grittman.com, because I figured some people are going to put in ChristineGrittman.com. So it just redirects to Grittman.com. Very easy.
I'm gonna say Nick has still got you. There's like, what was it? The 777 cars. I don't know if I've ever used them, but in New York City, like it's just like that's it, right? You know, it's super easy. You're never gonna forget it. Mr. Steve Spiro, Master Connector, close us out. I thank everybody for hanging around here. In the details on LinkedIn to the side, you have everybody's LinkedIn address. Make sure that you're going in and connecting. You got people here that are growth minded. They care about their community. They're here. They showed up for you. Connect with them. They will show up for you in the DMs. So make sure you're reaching out. I give you permission to reach out for mentorship, accountability partners within the comments. Guys, this is a place where we're growth minded. We're trying to get people to connect to each other. This is the Master Connection series. Get connecting. I leave you with in good hands with Mr. Steve Spiro, the Master Connector.
Thank you, Cameron. I appreciate that. Yeah. So listen. Number one, I think again, this is can be a very technical conversation, and I like to keep it simple. And perhaps there's some viewers that are like maybe a little overwhelmed. So just as some of the other people, panelists talked about, just get started. Just do stuff. Just do something. You'll get better as you go, right? Again, if you find, I love what was said, right? If you're more lifestyle focused, maybe and you're maybe in a 35, 40 plus range, Facebook might be a good place to start. If you're more looking for a higher net worth and business type of background, LinkedIn is a good place to start, but you'll figure it out, right? Just get started. But here's the thing. And the essence of what this whole series is about is connecting. And certainly social media is a great way, especially with the world we're in today, where people are feeling isolated, they're suffering, they're hurting. There's a lot of loss because of COVID, and people just, a lot of people are lost. So this is a great opportunity for us to reach out. So definitely make sure I like to say it all the time, we're the light. We need to shine our light, and social media is an incredible way that we can do that. Spread I love always putting out good messages, positive messages, optimistic messages. I'm not just a happy clappy kind of guy. I like, I know there's some stuff going on, but let's be the light. Let's inspire people, right? And this is a great platform. Social media in general is a great platform. So I appreciate everybody on the panel. I appreciate the viewership. Cameron, as usual, you are the man. Make sure you find him on his YouTube channel. I know he's getting his numbers up big time. BizDev Live on Tuesdays, BizDev Live Networking Tuesday at 12 noon, and then 11 o'clock every weekday for his BizDev. And certainly find me just here on LinkedIn. If you've got the guts, connect with me on LinkedIn, because I'm going to be connecting with you to schedule a call or a reach out of some sort. So if you don't have the guts, don't connect with me. But I look forward to connecting with you in all seriousness. And for those who've already connected with me, I appreciate the friendship, and I really do look at this as a community and a family. So appreciate you all. And again, Cameron, thanks for all the magic you do behind the scenes, being the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. So thanks again, sir.
I just wanted to say, I got on there, the fortune is in the follow-up. Guys, follow up, and we're going to count down. Everybody, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Crush it! Thank you so much, guys. We're going to play this out. Thank you so much to our panelists. We still got people commenting. Denise is in here. You guys rock. Thank you so much. I'm going to play our little master network statement. Hang out. We'll have a little conversation afterwards. Thank you so much, everybody. Make sure you're liking, sharing, shouting out your city, state, questioning, commenting. Even if you're watching this on the replay, we love you.
Fire up your Friday.
Fired Up Friday
with Steve Spiro, the Master Connector.
I am Steve Spiro, the Master Connector.
Over the next hour of this Master Connection series, we will take a deep dive into the different ways to connect and network effectively.
See us and hear us right now. So LinkedIn, we are on here. We're getting ready.
Hear from experts along with Steve Spiro, who went from being shy and introverted to the Master Connector.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a Master Connections series.